Tommy decided to raise money washing cars for his mother's medical treatment, but he struggled to find clients because people in town usually went to a renowned car wash in the area. When the car wash owner discovered this, he did something remarkable that changed everything for Tommy. "I'm going to help out, Dad. I can bring in some money," Tommy told his father, who was sitting on their living room couch going over some bills on the coffee table. His father raised his tired eyes and smiled wearily at him. "Oh, kid, you're only 8 years old. You don't have to worry about this stuff," his father, James, told him with a deep sigh. "Besides, it would be hard to find work at your age. But I can do my own thing. I can wash cars around the neighborhood," Tommy stated excitedly. They lived in a suburban area of Seattle, and it rained most of the time, so people like to clean their cars every once in a while. "Well, you can try, and hopefully, people will hire you," James conceded, patting Tommy's back and looking back at the table full of unpaid bills. Tommy's mom, Marie, was ill with cancer and went for treatment at the hospital every 2 weeks. The bills were mounting, even with their meager insurance. They used to be a 2-income household, but Marie had to stop working when she was diagnosed. James became the sole breadwinner while taking care of Tommy. He had been thinking about taking a second job lately, but someone needed to be there for Tommy at some point. Marie would often feel too sick that she slept all day, and she couldn't be responsible for their son. It pained her, but James assured her he was fine, though he knew Tommy needed his parents. Tommy knew his family was in financial trouble, and it broke James' heart that he had to witness that struggle. But there was nothing James could do about it now. And if Tommy wanted to help them by washing cars, he would allow it. It could keep his mind occupied. Over the next few days, Tommy went around their neighborhood asking to wash their cars. However, none of the neighbors took him up on his offer because they all went to a car wash nearby and gave its owner, Mr. Turner, their business. That same day, he decided to visit Mr. Turner's shop and ask him a question. An attendant at the shop led him to the main office, where Mr. Turner was shuffling papers around his desk, looking pretty busy. Tommy didn't beat around the bush and proceeded to ask his question. "Mr. Turner, what do you do to get more customers?" Mr. Turner frowned and looked up at the kid with a confused expression. "What? How do you get more customers? I've been asking people if I could wash their cars, but they all turn me down because everyone comes here," Tommy explained, looking very serious. "You want to start a car wash, kid?" Mr. Turner questioned, placing the papers he was holding back on the table and focusing solely on Tommy with a curious look. "Not really. I don't want to start a business. I just need to raise money for my family now," the little boy explained with his innocent face. "Why?" the older man asked. "My mom is sick and we need money," he shrugged. It was the simplest answer in the world, but Mr. Turner wanted to know more, so Tommy explained that his mother had cancer and he saw his father constantly worrying. "Your mother is Marie, right? And your dad is James? I know them. They used to come here too. I'll tell you what. Why don't you work for me?" Mr. Turner offered, and Tommy shook his head. "I can't. I only came here because I snuck out and took a bus. My parents wouldn't let me come here for work. It's too far. I need to find work near my house, and since my neighbors all come here to have their cars cleaned, I need to know how I can convince them to let me do it instead. Because clearly you convinced them you were the best," Tommy explained, shaking his head and clarifying his situation. Mr. Turner looked pensive, his hand holding his chin in thought, but then he finally nodded. "Ah, kid, although I don't like to lose business, I have an idea that could help you quickly, but it's best that you go back home before your parents worry." "You're right. Don't ever sneak out again," he warned the little boy, who nodded and left the store, wondering how Mr. Turner would help him. The next day, the car wash owner showed up at Tommy's doorstep with some news. Although Mr. Turner knew his parents, Tommy had no idea he knew where they lived. But then again, people were friendly in this neighborhood. "I've decided I'm going to close the car wash on Mondays for the next few weeks, so all my business on Mondays could go to you and you can earn money," Mr. Turner revealed to Tommy, whose eyes widened in shock. The boy was delighted. "And I'm going to come help you out because it might be too much for one person." But Mr. Turner wasn't being completely honest. What he didn't tell Tommy was he talked to some of the neighbors and asked them if they could help the kid because his mother was sick and needed the money. These people were only too happy to help out once they realized what was happening. The older man had decided to close his shop on Mondays because they simply didn't have enough business those days, and it didn't make financial sense to keep it open. But Tommy didn't need to know that. He also offered to help because Mr. Turner saw himself in Tommy and he wanted to help him out also. Every Monday since then, Tommy and Mr. Turner worked in front of Tommy's house washing the cars of a few neighbors who brought their cars there. Meanwhile, other neighbors created a fundraiser to help the family, and James and Marie couldn't believe everyone was so generous. Sometimes kids inspire the best in all of us. Don't you think? Mr. Turner asked James one Monday while watching Tommy hard at work cleaning a neighbor's vehicle. "I do," James said, his voice thick with emotion. He was proud of his son for inspiring goodness in people they had never met before and who were willing to donate and help them as much as they can.